To the 20, and he's gone! Touchdown! Easton Sadinsky! The Bulldogs get the football! Unbelievable! There goes Terry! Touchdown, Grandville! Pressure coming down, he goes! Lyman busting through! The junior shot out of a cannon! Jump pass, caught Connolly! He's got the speed! He had 2 returns last year against Caledonia! Easton Sadinsky! Touchdown! Grandville! Dawgs back on top! Brings the pressure, and down he goes! It's Braylon Haney on the sack. Shut down. Reed Graverson and Garrett Naraki. So the Jaden Terry again. Easy touchdown. Jaden with his second of the night.
Welcome to MGN on Michigan Sports Radio. Hello everyone. Welcome back. Week 9, final edition, at least in this form, of the show for the year here on Dawgs Plus. Nate Dreyer, Chandler Timmer, and senior night coming up, and yes, we will be there with live video coverage. When I was here last week, I wasn't sure if it would be us or if it would be the Hudsonville crew. It will be us. We're going to tell you a little bit about the plans in the next couple weeks here in just a second as well. Of course, follow us on social media. Thanks to the Bennett Center Farmers Insurance Agency for presenting game night. Thank you to the guest or multiple guests that we are still efforting. Once again, second straight week. When we come on the air, we're still working on figuring out who exactly is going to be on with us this week. So we'll be playing that now and during the pregame show, hopefully. So we'll get to that. We'll talk about next week in a second, but I can't believe that we already are at week 9. It has been as eventful of a season as I think we've certainly ever had. The roller coaster has been real in 25.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is the season always flies by faster than what we expect, but this year seems like we've had some of the really high highs and some of the low lows as well all throughout the course of the season now from early on in the first couple weeks, and then now towards the middle and the later part of the season. But still one more week to decide a lot of things, and look forward to the playoffs and what should be a couple more good games.
Yeah, so here is what is the plan of what we're going to do over these next couple weeks. So like I said, this is going to be the last, at least my plan is, this is the last full-on edition of Dawgs Plus. So based on what happens, maybe we'll just do some interviews or some other YouTube content, change it up. I know we kind of changed the branding on the show and still did the show in the playoffs next year. I don't know if that'll continue just because the next couple weeks are going to get a little different. So regardless what Grandville does, unless Jenison knocks off Hudsonville, we will not do either of the district playoff games because both those games are going to be on the road at other MSR teams, first Rockford, then Hudsonville, and we had talked about maybe if it was at Hudsonville being able to do it. That broadcast team kind of turned that down. That was their right. Maybe next year we'll have a little bit better agreements in place, but regardless, just the way it's going to fall, we aren't doing that. So then the question is, where are we going to be? That's a great question. So, and again, we'll publicly say right now, there's a couple things we're looking at. One thing might even be helping produce the Rockford Grandville broadcast with Brock's crew. We're doing a pregame or at Grandville Rockford in some way. We'll see. The point though is where the sponsors, both our sponsor along with Michigan Sports Radio, what's best for them to be at. So whether that be Unity Christian, we had some sponsors that were pulling us towards doing Muskegon playoff runs, likely Muskegon Mona Shores game. Again, based on we want to try to be the least invasive possible to whatever press box and wherever we're going. But again, sponsor driven. So I just want that out there for whoever will be mad that we show up at certain games. Sponsor driven wherever we're going.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind. Michigan Sports Radio will have every Grandville playoff game, but fortunately or unfortunately, it won't be he and I there. So for the next 2 weeks. Once Grandville wins the district.
Yes, make it out of the district and we're back.
Make it out of the district and we're back. Right in time for East Kentwood again, or Howell.
Got that to look forward to.
Yeah, so that's what's coming up. Like I said, I don't know at this time who the guest is this week. Maybe even 2 guests. We talked about maybe doing multiple. We'll see. What you're going to do is we're going to all find out together right now who called in this week.
And welcome back, everyone, inside the Game Night Studios, counting down to kickoff as Grandville and Hudsonville on senior night close the regular season. And we've got one of those Bulldogs seniors first set to join us here on the program tonight to get ready for kickoff. And a guy that's been a multi-year leader for this Bulldogs team on the field, off the field as well. Josh Crater is calling into the program
tonight. Josh, first off, how are you? Thanks for your time here tonight.
Doing great. It's been a good week so far. Been great this season.
Yeah, certainly has. And let's quick talk about the last game. From a team perspective first. So of course, lose by a couple scores to East Kentwood, but the way that game goes, I think there's a lot bigger story to tell than just the final score. I mean, with the way you guys fought back in the second half of that game, how big is that for the team, for the locker room, for you guys to kind of have that fight back, ultimately come up short, but maybe be able to take some momentum? And what was the momentum that you were able to take away from the way that East Kentwood game finished down the stretch?
Yeah, it was a huge leap for our defense. And in the first half, I feel like we didn't get off to a super hot start, super fast start. But in the second half, we didn't change anything schematically. We just locked in, communicated, and just played great as a team and made sure we all did our jobs at a really high pace. And I think that helped us really have that momentum going into the second half, where they only scored one score in the second half.
Yeah, for sure. You're a huge part of that as well. I mean, I want to say you were I haven't seen the exact stats, but you had to have been right there for one of the leading, if not the leading tackler in that game with what you were able to do, coming in from safety. And, from that, for you defensively, you're a guy that you have to play a lot of different hats within this defense, especially with some of the injuries that you guys, have had. On the defensive side of the ball, where do you think that you have grown the most throughout this season? Where have you kind of seen your role maybe have to adapt as this year's gone along and some other guys have, maybe gone down throughout the year?
Yeah, so I would say, compared to last year was, I was pass coverage a lot, trying to pick the ball, PBU, stuff like that. This year I've had to adapt more into the run game because, teams run the ball a lot in the OK Red. So I have to come down and make plays and be able to tackle people. So I would think the most I've grown is going down to tackle people and not being scared to go hit them.
Absolutely. Now, talk about being in coverage, though. I think you've got a couple of interceptions on the year. One of which was back in the Jensen game. You had the pick six in the second half at one point in that contest. Take us through when you're bringing that one back. What did you see in terms of breaking on that football, and then as the field opened up, what's going through your head when you see just green grass in front and that you're going to take it to the house?
I see the ball tipped up by one of our D linemen, and all I'm thinking is yeah, I'm grabbing this and I'm taking it. Nobody's coming to get me. I see open field, and I think there was somebody that almost tackled me. I was I'm not letting anybody tackle me on this play. I need to have momentum shift for our offense so we can try to win this game.
Yeah, for sure. On the offensive side of the ball, we have seen you featured over there a little bit as well this year in a variety of different ways. A true Swiss Army knife on the offensive side of the ball. You were carrying the ball at running back a little bit against Grand Haven. Of course, the first week of the year, you threw and you caught a touchdown in that first game of the year. So take us through kind of the mindset. How much, when you have gotten some offensive snaps, how much have you enjoyed getting to be in that type of Swiss Army knife kind of role on offense and really just contributing in a lot of different ways?
Yeah, I love being a part of offense. I love being able to catch the ball, run the ball, having the ball in my hands and knowing I can score at any time. It's really fun when I get to run routes, but also run the ball for my team, help out wherever I can on offense.
Yeah. You look at this season, Josh, and definitely we've talked a lot about the amount of experience, the amount of guys that are all, been together for 3 or 4 years that are a part of this team, and you're certainly part of that group. But one storyline that's been within that as well have been a couple injuries that this team has suffered to a couple of those other, senior leaders, on and off throughout the year, some guys now out for the year, so on and so forth. Take us through the mindset and what goes through. First off, how tough is it to see not just a teammate, but a friend and a guy you've played with for a couple years when they go down? How tough is that to see? And then what do you have to do to be able to reset, refocus, and be able to, next man up attack for the rest of the game and rest of the season?
Yeah, I would say it's really hard to see some of your best teammates on the team, most impactful, go down in the middle of the season, their last high school football season. But I would say next man up, the way we refocus is just somebody else is there. Somebody's been working hard to be ready to go in that role, and they're just going to have to do it, and we're just going to have to play as a team and play for them. So, because they are obviously missing out, so we got to play and win for them.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of branching off that on the defensive side of the ball, you guys tactically as a defense, we've seen a lot of those lost pieces and guys in and out of the lineup, there. How important, I guess, is practice? How difficult is it to have that rotation of guys kind of around you on the defensive side of the ball and just know to, trust? Now, you guys brought Weems up from JV, and he played well last week, but just this kind of constant rotation and changing group of guys, how difficult, how important is it every week in practice to be able to try to get everyone on the same page so that you can trust each other to do your jobs?
It's very important. I would say during practice, the biggest thing we emphasize is communication, because if you communicate, then everybody knows their job. Everyone can trust that they know their job. And in practice, when we communicate, we call it dog talk. So when we do that, everyone knows what their job is. They key in on what to do, and that helps everyone know, like, all right, I'm gonna go make this play. I'm guarding this guy. And when we have rotations of people rotating in, then they can get the same reps. So when they get put in the game, they're ready for it.
Yeah, and we'll kind of get back to the gridiron here, and we'll talk about Hudsonville in just a second in the close of the season. But let's go to the Diamond for a second, because I know that is in some ways you're a multi-sport athlete, but where you're committed for the next level is as a baseball pitcher going to Davenport. So I guess kind of tell us about why you chose Davenport, what you're excited about being able to continue your academic and athletic career at that school for that team in the future.
I'm very excited. The coach Tidy, he was my travel baseball coach for a couple of years, and he's the head coach at Davenport, and he basically convinced me to go there. Great program, won the GLIAC, they win a ton, and I'm really excited to go through their development program, and just great, amazing as a baseball player. I'm really excited.
What are you? Do you know what you're maybe thinking about studying in college? Or going to figure that out once you get there?
I think I'm going to go into sports management.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, no, I mean, Davenport, of course, is a great place for that. And, I mean, you mentioned the baseball program. I actually went to high school with Grant Wolfram, he, of course, spent some time there at that program. He was a year older than me at Hamilton, so definitely know what that program is able to put out. On the mound, for those of us like me that haven't gotten a chance to see a ton of baseball for the Bulldogs, what is your primarily a pitcher? Take us through your pitch style. What's your repertoire? What style of pitcher and what kind of stuff do you throw out there on the mound?
I like throwing fastballs, and I don't know another pitcher that doesn't. Fastball's a great pitch. But I would say for more experienced hitters, I like throwing off speed first, like a changeup or a slider, and then blowing it right by them because they see off speed and then they're not ready for it. So I would definitely say fastball.
That's like you said, that's I think the answer that any pitcher is certainly going to give you. And you guys are going to need your fastball this week as well against Hudsonville. Unbeaten on the season coming into this game, and you're going to be on the defensive side of the ball right in the middle of things against this really high-powered offensive attack for the Eagles. They're scoring north of 40 points per game on the season. They can do a lot of different things, both, on the ground and through the air. What about this Hudsonville offense you think it is that makes them so good, and what are you guys going to have to do defensively to try to slow them down?
I think the thing that they do best is they have home run plays. And I think if we can limit that and limit our mistakes and limit the home run plays, I think we can limit them to multiple long drives, and that's what we like to play. We like to play long drives. So if we can limit those home run plays, like they have Hail Marys, long throws, long runs, plays that the quarterback likes to play. So I think if we can limit that, I think our defense is very well off.
Yeah, certainly. I think it's going to be an interesting game. And, lastly, it is, you got what? You got the Veterans Appreciation Night going on. We'll have a flyover before the game, going to have, of course, Senior Night. You take all those other things, into account. Not that you guys need any more, motivation when you've got a rival like Hudsonville, but, how motivated do you think this team is for this game with all the seniors that you guys have heading into this Senior Night?
I think we are super motivated. Undefeated Hudsonville rivals, they're coming to our house. I think it's going to be a very fun night. I think we're going to be super hyped up. We're going to get fast off the ball. We're going to start hot and just see what happens.
All right, we certainly will. Josh Crater, thank you so much for your time calling in. Good luck for the rest of this football season, baseball season, and everything else in the future.
Thank you so much.
All right, Josh Crater here on Game Night on Michigan Sports Radio. And welcome back, everybody, inside the Game Night studios as we're getting a little bit closer to kickoff. Grandville and Hudsonville here tonight to close the regular season at Bulldogs Stadium. And throughout a lot of the year, we've been really focused on talking to a lot of the experienced guys, the 3 or 4 year starters for the Grandville Bulldogs. But there's been a little bit of a youth movement as this season certainly has gone on throughout the year. And Jayce Hopewell, the sophomore running back, has been a huge part of that. Came up in the middle of the Grand Haven game from the JV team, and he's accounted for 4 touchdowns, including all of them last week against East Kentwood. And he now joins the show. First off, Jayce, thanks for calling in. How you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing really well, and like I said, let's kind of first take a look back at last week. You individually had a great game, and the team fell short to East Kentwood, but you guys were able to fight back, really strongly in that second half on both sides of the ball, strung together some good offense and the defense, of course, as well. What were you guys as a group able to take away in terms of positive momentum from fighting back in that second half and having a strong performance against one of the area's best teams?
Oh, we couldn't back up. We had to make sure we kept doing our jobs, our assignments, and not giving up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I as I mentioned, within that you had a really, really good game. Once again here, talk about a whirlwind of a couple of weeks. I think you started the Grand Haven game down on the JV squad, scored a couple touchdowns, I think, in that game. Come up, score a touchdown in the varsity game against Grand Haven. So first off, take us through that Grand Haven week. When did you kind of find out that what the game plan was going to be, that you're going to come up to varsity, and what was that like to play in a couple of different games and have some success kind of right away at the varsity level?
Man, I believe I started practicing with varsity that week. So I wasn't with JV at all.
Okay.
Until the Thursday. Then I played. They let me play JV. They got me out after 2 quarters. They got me out, and then the next day I didn't even know I was gonna get in because, just chances.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I mean, you, as you said, you really took advantage of the opportunity, wound up starting against East Kentwood, had a great game. We'll talk about the details of that in a second. But first, take us through what's going through your head. Where are the nerves at there, during the national anthem when you're standing there getting ready to play your first varsity game, as a sophomore up, in this whirlwind couple of weeks? Like where was the head at? Where were the nerves at when you were just, moments from kickoff last Friday when you were getting ready to start your first ever home varsity game?
Gonna let my nerves show. I just had to let my confidence take me on.
Yeah, and you know what? We certainly saw that. You're able to plunge into the end zone a couple of times and caught one more in that game. How much has it helped you to have an experienced group of multi-year starters with you at running back? You've got Braylon, who's been playing for 3 years at really a starter at running back. DJ Hardiman has started for a couple years. So how much does it help you moving into that role, moving into a very critical role in the varsity offense, to have guys that are so experienced helping lead the way for you?
It helped me out so much. I am so grateful to have them as teammates and as running backs with me. When I don't know what a play call is before the play starts, I ask DJ. He helps me out. Ray, him too. Just wonderful guys.
Yeah, definitely. What is the biggest difference that you found in terms of the speed and the style of the JV to the varsity game? Coming up right in the heat of the varsity season, what are some of the big differences running the ball at the varsity level versus the JV level?
The game is much more physical, faster. You got to be more on key and can't make any mistakes, really.
Yeah, certainly. For those that now it is their first time kind of seeing you play, you've come up here, had a couple of good weeks. How would you describe your playing style, your style of a runner, and what you think you can bring to the offense?
I think I can bring some physicality. I can get a couple of yards if we need to. I can catch the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And, you talk about the pass game, the element that you bring with that. We did see you catch a touchdown pass, had a grab the week before against, Grand Haven as well. How much is that something that you enjoy to do, being able to get out on routes and help create some chunk plays and add to the game in the pass game along with just running the ball?
I love the pass game. I think, honestly, we should do it more because I think it works if we do our assignments right.
Yeah, definitely. And, this is going to be a really tough game when you talk about maybe needing to pass more and doing some different things on offense. This is a very, very good Hudsonville team that you're going to see. First off, the big point with it, though, is it is senior night for this contest, and you've got a team that you have, as you just mentioned, with some of these other guys in the backfield even with you, you've got a lot of big-time senior leaders that are on this team. How motivated are you guys as a group to go out with a win on senior night and what, also will, possibly and likely be the final game at Bulldogs Stadium this year?
We're all hyped up. We're ready to go. We're ready to get out there. That's all I can really say.
Yeah, certainly. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. This Hudsonville team defensively. We know that they're really stout. What are some of the things that we can expect to see? In terms of that matchup of your offense on that Hudsonville defense. I think probably a lot of physicality in this game, and I think it's going to be a tough game. But what are some of the things you have to execute on to be able to move the ball on this Hudsonville defense?
I do think we do have to extend our pass game at this game because they will be looking out for power and trap because that's our main runs. So the ends would be like crashing down, stopping power, and they would probably be like inside, stop and trap. But I think if we get our pass game, we could have a good game.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, no, for sure. It's going to be a really, really interesting game to see. And Jayce, again, thanks for calling in, and it's been fun to watch you come up here right at the end of the season and making a big impact right away, and, of course, scoring all 3 touchdowns last week for the Bulldogs. Jayce, one last time, thank you for your time tonight, and good luck the rest of the year.
Thank you.
All right, that's Jayce Hopewell here on Game Night on Michigan Sports Radio as we get ready for kickoff between Grandville and Hudsonville. All right, welcome back to Dawgs Plus, Nate and Chandler. Let's get into this past week. 35-20, East Kentwood bounces back, takes down the Bulldogs to continue to try to get back on the winning path here. What's the best way to go into this game? Because certainly a lot of ways to look at it, and the one thing I have to say is, even though they lost, and they lost by 2 scores, bouncing to what was actually their last point, but leads into the first here too, I think it's the best possible vibes, at least from my perspective, coming out of a loss like that, just based on the tale of 2 halves, the way that they came back in the second half. Disappointing way to lose in the end, but at the end of the day, the way the team fought in the second half was really, for an outsider, really big to see that kind of fight for a team that had been punched in the mouth. I mean, the team's taken a lot of cheap shots in the last couple weeks, and on a couple different occasions, really, with injuries and more injuries in this game as well. But I think a big deal just for the vibes and the feel going into the rivalry game this week, going into playoffs, just to see that second half fight.
Yeah, no doubt. I think if you'd done a status check at halftime of the game versus the final, I think it was, even though it still resulted in a loss, it was the feeling is much more confident after seeing that fight and the comeback, because it's a complete tale of 2 different halves. The first half, you see a lot of the things that have gone wrong for the Bulldogs last couple weeks and some of the struggles they've had. You're kind of thinking, no, here we go again. I think the positives to take away is that the second half, the things that they can do, to play some better football against high-quality opponents, you see, what they can do, and then they were able to put it out on the field and show some encouraging signs that, moving forward, if you can play that style of football, you're going to stay in some games and you've got a chance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so you look at, defensively in that game, Grandville gives up right on the nose 300 yards. Interestingly, East Kentwood goes heavy to the air, 199 pass, 101 rushing to get their 5 touchdowns. So kind of interesting the way that they did go so aerial, assault heavy against Grandville. And I mean, really, again, 60 yards or whatever. Whatever time we're recording this show is whatever time the dangerous chemical train that comes through Holland every night. I've been told don't look up what is on it because it's like that. What happened in Ohio a couple years ago?
Oh, that's right.
Whatever's on that is what comes through Holland at night. Yeah.
Okay.
So whatever that is comes through Holland at the exact time that we do this show.
Okay.
So yeah. we're going to just let the train continue to go by and keep rolling. This is a pre-recorded show, but we just treat it like it's live. A lot easier to edit that way.
Never cut anything, right?
Never cut anything.
Okay, good to know.
Way less than we should. Way less than we should.
Maybe. That's a fair point.
So, yeah. So that's the defense. Grandville on offense here. Spotting boards are half finished for the week. Grandville puts up 309 total yards, 213 rush, 96 pass. So it's got to be close to a season high in passing yards for the Bulldogs, who go to the air on several occasions, and showed a couple different looks when some of that the unbalanced formations and different things. But I think Grandville wading into the waters of showing some different looks, and I think we're going to continue to see a lot of different stuff this week, and especially the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're seeing them have to make an adjustment. It's kind of been a necessary one, but you're starting to see the different things that they can do. Early on in the season, it was the variations of the single wing and different formations to where they're splitting running backs out and moving guys around, and now you're starting to see a little bit more of staying in the base offense. But as we mentioned during the broadcast, the unbalanced line where you're taking one of the tight ends, swapping in essentially extra tackle to one side, and it's not a huge personnel change, but at the same time it's enough for a team that's likely prepped for the base T and kind of know exactly what they're looking at. All of a sudden you unbalance the formation a little bit, you can run different ways, you get an extra blocker out there, and it's just one extra thing that the defense has to account for, and I think you saw some of the results of that, and then their ability to then run the football. It was the first half again where just some of those big plays, those longer runs that we've typically seen weren't there. It was the longest play even in the first half was a 16-yard DJ Hardeman run, which came right before the half, and then once they started kind of mixing things up a little bit, second half things starting to open up on the ground game quite a bit, a lot more of those chunk runs, and I think you kind of can see that there's some positive movement because of the changes that were being made.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Eric was making me do math because I'm sitting there trying to count linemen on each side of the center, and it's already so difficult when you just got 7 guys across. Anyway, you could darn near put you can't do this, but you could darn near put 6 on one side, and well, that wouldn't work, but whatever. 5 and 2, whatever. You get the idea. Let's talk about some of the guys in the backfield. So you mentioned DJ Hardeman. He had to run it 21 times and just really pounded it. Looked effective moving back to fullback. So he's really good. And then Jayce Hopewell, talk about a bright spot. Talk about an emerging star. Has all 3 touchdowns and is filling that missing role of kind of that speed feature back on the left side of the T.
Yeah, I think overall that mix is kind of being solved a little bit, and I think you said exactly right that Hardeman has really benefited from moving back to the fullback position to where he can really run through the middle of the defense. He can bounce off a couple guys on the interior, and then he's got that speed and that burst in the middle of the field that you saw some of those chunk runs when the defense is still confused on some of those trap looks where he was able to be a little bit more effective. And yeah, just to give him credit, and he gave it all out there. I mean, it was one of those games where it was like you could kind of tell he was getting gassed throughout the course of the game, and he just kept going, making play after play, and almost was leading the charge for the Bulldogs in that offensive comeback in the second half. But then Hopewell as well, you can't overstate the impact that he has, is that playmaker essentially out of that left running back position, to where guys that can take the stretch run can be effective on the goal line, and then also contribute in the passing game as well with a couple catches. And excuse me, he was able to make a couple different plays. And so I think if teams have to start to respect, kind of his ability to make plays in the backfield, that's going to help everybody else. It's going to help Haney from the right side. It's going to help Hardeman essentially at the fullback too. And then Hopewell, you see his playmaking ability that I think he'll continue to get more confident as the season goes along.
It was kind of interesting too, because Braylon Haney, who had been really the featured guy for back-to-back weeks, game plan kind of took him out of it a little bit as a pounder. So I think, if you can get all 3 of those guys in a mix, and whatever other guys off the bench as well, I think that'll be a big. The defense, again, like I said, only 101 yards allowed on the ground. I had kind of anticipated, and I know they kind of suffered some injuries in the linebacking core throughout the game as well. I had kind of thought, especially in that second half, that East Kent would look to run the ball more effectively. I mean, East Kent is a pass-first offense, but I kind of thought they would maybe look to run the ball more than they did, and they didn't. And in the end, in the second half, they wound up being big. You get an interception, huge play, incredible play by Keegan Kroll to read that one. You get the interception, you get a stop later. I mean, second half, that's the best half of defense they've played this year. I mean, you could make an argument to go up against, that's maybe the best offense they've played, and that was as good of a half of defense as they've played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one interception was huge. It really turned the momentum. I mean, it was going back to the Grand Haven game, basically 6 quarters of struggling to get off the field and unable to make stop. And East Kentwood was marching at the time, and then Kroll's ability to read the defense, Kaufman making a rare mistake and able to jump it, and that really got the Bulldogs back into it because the offense, has been able to move the football. That's we talked about their lack of the big strike ability, but at the same time, you kind of trust that if they can stick to kind of what they can do. We talked about why the offense can still be effective. It's the defense that's kind of need and find some plays, and they were able to do that. And I think with that one interception, you can argue they gained a lot of confidence as well, to the fact where they can stop a talented East Kentwood offense that's putting up 40-plus points a game and really limit them in the second half to just one late score. So I think moving forward, they've shown that they can make some plays now, especially in the some of those turnovers, able to get the interceptions or punch the ball free. But I think it'd be a struggle moving forward. But especially with the injuries too. That guys continue to go down, but their ability to step up and make the plays in the second half was huge.
We'll see. Maybe I think checking. Hopefully the secondary maybe gets a little bit healthier this week. But again, the linebacking core probably going to be a little bit more injured. We'll kind of see long term. We'll find out a little bit with everyone else. And if I did know, as we've proven all year long, I'm not going to say what I do know because I've been asked on certain injuries and whatever all year long. I think it's well known on certain injuries, but it's up to the team and it's up to the players to sometimes put out. I don't like it when sometimes media members love to, especially for high school football, want to rush to be first to announce injury stuff before the players even announce it. That's ridiculous. It's high school football. So. And the teams especially for state media. So, that's my point on that.
Okay.
So we'll see. That'll do it. That's Grandville, East Kentwood. It'll be Hudsonville, of course, coming up. We'll talk about that in a second. Before we do, let's take a look at snooze2you.com. This is his Week 8 current mapatology. Of course, he'll have the Week 8.5 maybe out by the time the favorites win, maybe out by the time this podcast is out. Harass him for that. He loves that, by the way. He absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing that Snooze loves more than people harassing him to donate more of his time to get that out for them. Okay, so that essentially, and I was talking to Brock at Michigan Sports Radio, so it's his math, not mine. So just keep that in mind. This is his math, not mine. He essentially, what he had done was saying that this in Region 1, District 1, is essentially what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. If the playoff, if things stay as it is, Grandville is picking up so many bonus points. They're picking up more points if they lose this Friday than they would pick up winning against a lot of teams to go against Hudsonville. So that's kind of where that is sitting. That's mostly what it's going to be. The only thing is because it looks like Cal's out. So what if the MHSAA decides let's put, since I wish you could see my my mouse on here, what I'm pointing at, but you look at the gaggle there, East Kentwood, the 3 seed in yellow. So you look at that gaggle there, in theory, could you make an argument that should be a district? Those 4 teams are all tight packed together. Yeah. And then Rockford's got to travel a long ways regardless. I don't know. I think that could make sense, and then also it saves you. It essentially gets you Rockford Hudsonville regional championship, which I think everyone would like to see in terms of what's likely expected. So I don't know. We'll see kind of what happens with that. We'll take a look here at some other divisions, just based on kind of where we may wind up being here. This is Division 2. So like I said, as we sit right now, there's a chance. Again, sponsors asking that we are at Muskegon, Mona Shores Week 1. That's mostly if Unity Christian and South Christian are playing, and maybe it just leads us on to do a path of those teams, but South Christian MSR team would take that game. It's their whatever. So that's what you're looking at there. Traverse City Central. Portage Central has given up 10 points this season. Wow. We've played 8 games. They've given up 10 points, so they're over there in Region 2. And then Division 4, the other place that you may watch us pop up. You've got Unity Christian down here, currently set to play South Christian Week 1, and then Godwin Heights and Paw Paw is the other matchup, which is kind of fascinating. I love the playoff point system sometimes. that you get South Christian and Unity Christian in the first game, and then the winner takes on Godwin Heights. 7-1. Godwin Heights is rolling. They killed Kelloggsville last week. So that's where things are at. There. That's kind of the quick look at some of the mapatology, both for Grandville along with other stuff. I forgot to change the graphic at the bottom of the screen for that whole segment. Whatever. It's just our names. No one cares. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We'll preview Hudsonville, and we'll do top 10. We'll get out of here.
This broadcast is presented by Farmers Insurance, Bennett Center Agency in Wyoming. For all auto, home, specialty, life, and commercial insurance needs, see what a center can do for you. Call today at 616-980-4949 or visit at 2240 28th Street Southwest in Wyoming.
Welcome back to Dawgs Plus, final episode of the regular season. I think, as we mentioned, final episode of the season here as well, of this show at least. 4-4 Granville, 8-0 Hudsonville. As we end the regular season on senior night at Grandville for a team, of course, that's chock full of seniors. Guys have been starting for 2 or 3 years, and a big night, and a night, unfortunately, just the way that things have gone with injuries and with the course of the season, that when the schedule first rolled out, when I was building the first graphics in June, and I saw that no way Hudsonville is coming to Grandville the last week of the year, we will have literally the biggest game in the state of Michigan. Unfortunately, not quite the case. And also, unfortunately, for Grandville fans, Hudsonville has certainly held up their end of the bargain. 8-0 now on the year. They're perfect. They've got the edge on Grandville in terms of winning both the matchups, last year, and they just keep finding a way to win. I mean, the Rockford game, they go up big, they almost blow it, they win it. The East Kentwood game, they win with a 25-yard Hail Mary with a left tackle hold and whatever. I had a Hudsonville person explain to me, like, oh, well, he got beat so bad that the hold was okay.
Okay.
I'm like,
that's an interesting
what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Whatever. Whatever. So, yeah. But regardless, I mean, plenty of stuff happened, I'm sure. Whatever. Regardless, they keep winning.
They do.
They do just keep finding a way to win. Like, there's just a grittiness to this team. A lot of people kind of pick them. Some pick them as the absolute top team, and congrats to them for figuring that out. Others, probably saw them more second or third or fourth in the OK Red, and, like, they have just, again, separated themselves from everyone else this year.
Yeah, they've been really impressive and kind of just have a little bit of that team of destiny feel to them, the way that they
Again.
play. Yeah, I was going to say, going back to last year and the playoff run that they went on, and then now this year with a couple of regular season games against some of the top teams in the conference. And yeah, you can't take that away from their ability to find a way to win in those games, regardless of what exactly transpired on those plays. But yeah, some of the highlights, some of the big plays at the end, they've had a flair for the dramatic, and they've also dominated and won the games that they were supposed to win as well, which is big too. So I think a really impressive season once again for Hudsonville, and looking like, I mean, of course, if they're going on a deep run like they did last year, going to have to beat potentially Grandville or Rockford, the teams that they've already seen, and maybe East Kentwood along the way as well. But the way that they've been able to handle business the first time through has been really impressive. Yeah,
so their average margin to victory is 23.6. They're scoring 40.1 points per game, giving up 17.2 on the season so far. And let's take a look at this team, because the one thing I will say is their numbers, at least in the big wins over East Kentwood and Rockford, do not match what the offensive system is. So if you remember this system, it is essentially 2 tight end or tight end and H-back, like what Byron Center runs with 2 wide receivers, shotgun. I think was it Coach Stiegel or someone last year called it like a shotgun wing tee, because they have that wing that can motion, but essentially it is just a power first with what are essentially 2 tight ends, or at least 2 lead blocker type guys based on the formation that just can really plow at you. It's very simple formationally. So like last week, Grandville saw a team in East Kentwood that had 40 different formations throughout that game. This is pretty straightforward. It's like there's going to be a tight end on the line, and then the question is there another tight end, or is there 3 wide receivers? And it's from the shotgun. And that they don't even really run the pistol as much as they used to in years gone by. It's very similar to what Byron Center's offense is now. So from that, you'd expect a team that does just exclusively run the football. And that still is their identity, and they've done that in games that they've won big. But those 2 close games against East Kentwood and Rockford. East Kentwood, 443 total yards, 250 pass, 193 rush. Rockford, 387 total yards, 239 pass, 148 rush. So in those games, they've been biased towards the pass game to win, which is interesting, and that's where we talk about Brady Van Lake. So again, Van Lake, receiver, he played quarterback, if you remember, 2 years ago in that shootout when he was a sophomore coming up against Grandville. And, again, Ferris State offer, Mr. Football shortlist now. So, he was probably set to be a receiver again this year. Braylon Jefferson, Northview's quarterback, transfers to Northview from Hudsonville this summer. So, they've now elevated him, and maybe he transferred because Van Lake had won the job anyway. I don't know. But regardless, he moves in first year. He's been great. He's a rare breed that I think is better on the scramble when the play breaks down than when he's actually in the pocket making quick reads. That's why they've got all these crazy plays this year. So a very long-winded setup for me to mostly say, very, very simple. You'd expect it to be this, power run, power read, gun tee, run it offense, but actually it's their pass game that has been the most dangerous, especially in tight games when needed, with Van Lake, being the magician.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what maybe takes him to the next level is, for years, Hudsonville was kind of always the team that they had that power element to them, and it was just a matter of how much they were going to tap into it. And I think the last couple of years they kind of figured out that, hey, if we rely on this pretty heavily, we're pretty good and going to beat a lot of teams in the area. And they were able to do that, and now you're starting to see them kind of incorporate that passing element back into it, and a lot of that's because of the talent that they have now at the quarterback position and at the receiver, tight end as well, that they can still, when they want to, and they use it effectively, the run game and the power sets that they have out of the gun, but then they also now have the weapons and the ability that in these games where they maybe need to take some shots down the field, or that passing element helps against some of those stouter defenses that they're going to play around the area, they're able to tap into that passing game, and those are the highlight plays that you've seen as you mentioned.
Yeah, so kind of look at all their. I mean, again, you got Braylon Miller, Andrew Merriman caught the Hail Mary touchdown against East Kentwood. Lawson Weber was the top play on Sports Center one morning. Levi Vanderveen will do some receiving. Will DeYoung is their lead tight end, so good blocker, but also he can make some plays in the pass game, the run game. Owen Harzma is back, a true. The one thing about them is they've had multiple backs, and they do have that again this year a little bit because they've got a couple different guys that they might use more of like a spread game that be a slot and also be a receiving back. But like Harzma is for the most part a 3-down back. He's got great speed, great power. He was dominant last year, kind of started taking the role from guys that had been above him, so he's nasty. Austin Eaton is their wing back that'll be in that, mostly lead blocking role. They don't do quite as much Byron Snyder last year would run quite a bit of motion and maybe handoffs and sweeps to that H. They don't do it, as far as I can tell, quite as much. They at least in the past too, they're going to just kind of be powerful. They're just going to essentially have the wing, but essentially it's 12 personnel, just 2 blocking tight ends on the line. And again, it's a visually very simple looking offense, but it's the opposite offensive theory of it's a shotgun version of a lot of things Grandville does in terms of looking the same, doing things different. But the main thing is just a depth of weapons that you have to be able to account for. And they can. What's concerning about them is that they can do it in different ways, and that we're talking about the danger. And everyone talks about Van Lake in the pass game, but I still think in a game that they have to win and they have to grind it out. The run game, I think, still is really the feature of this team, even though everyone in the media wants to talk about Van Lake and talk about the pass game. The run game is what sets it up and what makes them so scary for a defense to go up against. Even a Grandville defense that has stopped the run, especially the interior run game pretty well. I think Hudsonville's the team that can beat that that run game and look a little bit like what Cass Tech did in the run game.
Yeah, I think that's what makes them so difficult to beat is that they are capable of doing both things on the ground and through the air. But I think at their core and then what they want to be, in their ideal game plan is relying a little bit more heavily on that base, that power sets that they have and running the football. And if they can do that, they're going to rely on it. They're not going to try to get too cute with things. And so, I think for the Bulldogs, it comes down to can you trust your defensive line and how aggressive do you have to play, sending extra bodies to limit the run game, and then of course building off of that is then how much help do you have in the secondary and how much are they going to attack that. But I think it kind of starts off with limiting the run game, and the Bulldogs have done at times throughout the season have done a nice job of stopping the run between the tackles. And that carries into the next point of, you've already kind of mentioned it a little bit, is that when you get into those passing situations is typically Coach Center and the Bulldogs have sent a lot of pressure trying to get to the quarterback and, get some, whether you get all the way you get home and get the sack or you move the quarterback off the spot, it's like you're kind of playing into the game plan a little bit there, because Van Lake is, as you said, it might be better outside the pocket. So if you're forcing him to roll out and suddenly he's making these plays and, it's kind of just backyard football at that point, sometimes that's helping their offense out. So kind of going to be interesting to see exactly how the Bulldogs want to play it, if they're going to try to play a little bit more contained in the pocket versus totally flushing them out. But I think it all kind of ties hand in hand.
Yeah, no, they're tough, and I think their offense is really the bigger feature than in some ways the defense. So when I'm researching this game, and I want to make sure I say this in a way that is still, again, this is the best team in the area, really on both sides of the ball in a lot of ways. Like there is no disrespect's not even the word of what I'm going to say, but like when I'm kind of doing research on like the amount of points that they've given up in some games, again, you got to look at game script and what units in there and what's happening. Mm-hmm. This team, so we know that they're so good at stopping the run, and the problem with what I'm about to say is the teams that have scored on them are passing teams. Yeah. I don't know if you know this about Grandville, but they're not particularly a passing team. Now, they were last week.
Almost 100 yards passing.
Yeah, almost 100 yards passing. That's crazy. But you look at, like, they gave up 21 to West Otto. They gave more to West Otto than what Grandville did. Gave up the same amount as what Grandville did to Rockford. They gave up an extra touchdown to East Kentwood. Mm-hmm. So, like, their defense has shown points where maybe that's where some of the missing pieces are more from last year. But the problem is, are those missing pieces more in the secondary? I guess that's probably the main concern, because the linebackers and the line of scrimmage is still really, really strong for them. But I do think the defense could be more. I'm not saying Grandville's going to run up and down for 42 points and score 6 touchdowns. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is controlling the clock and being able to win a 21-20 game, I think, is a more possible game plan than what is being somewhat portrayed out there. Mm-hmm. Again, this is not bulletin board. This is saying, like, best case is just to turn into a grinded out game. But I think there might be able to be more movement on this defense than, say, Rockford, who is purposely built to stop the tee. Yeah. They dive at knees. We've gone over the way that Rockford has their own special way of doing things, and like, we know that Rockford just has an ability to stop the tee. Maybe Hudsonville. Maybe they are more get-up. Maybe you can move the ball on them the way you did against East Kentwood, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
East Kentwood's defensive numbers, are better, like, on the whole, when you look at points allowed per game throughout the year. Competition, whatever, but yeah.
Right, I think that's just to kind of tie the whole episode together, and things we've kind of been talking about is that I think the path is there, and that's, not trying to be super optimistic, not trying to be pessimistic, depending on how you want to look at it, but I think, the path is there from what you saw the second half last week from the Bulldogs to what we kind of know Hudsonville has been and what they are. That's not to say the Bulldogs are the favorite to win necessarily, or that the Hudsonville is not a good team and that they haven't been really impressive. But I think you kind of see and can kind of see what the Bulldogs are able to do offensively, as far as if they can grind the ball enough against a team in Hudsonville that is, as you said, has stopped the run effectively. But if you can get them a little bit there, and then you start to use some of those passing elements that you saw last week and that was effective against an East Kentwood talented defense, use some of those elements, you're probably not going to put up 35 points, but if you can get 3 or 4 scores and suddenly your defense is playing like what it was the second half last week, you can be in the game. Now, I'm looking at the numbers from last year, and Hudsonville held the Bulldogs to 16 points in both their matchups, the regular season and then the playoff game as well. And so, it's a different players obviously, but the same coaching staff for the most part, and a team that's maybe figured out how to stop the T a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of the convergence of Bulldogs offense that's developing and adding a little bit more passing elements to it, and then a defense that has stopped the T. But we'll see exactly how they're going to play it against Grandville on Friday night.
Remember, they played Howell to start the year last year too, correct? Yeah,
yes,
and they
correct.
lost the game. They gave up, 20 points
Yep.
in that game. So, they saw the T a whole heck of a lot last year. This year, they haven't seen it. The closest thing they've seen to Grandville is they played Byron Center the first week of the year. So they essentially saw themselves on offense. They were the closest they've seen to a run-first T team when you look at their schedule. Everyone else, because, East Lansing, very pro-style. Caledonia spread, West Ottawa spread, Jenison spread, Rockford spread, East Kentwood spread, Grand Haven spread. So they haven't seen anything like this. So we don't even know what the personnel looks like, because this team has, been willing against passing teams. They won't have a down lineman. They'll just go sole psycho front with 6 roving front line guys. They're linebacker edge rushers that just move around and like the old Bill Belichick defense. So we don't know. I think they're a base 4-3. I don't even know though, because they'll use standing edge rushers and stuff. So their kind of main thing they did a lot of was a 2 down, 2 standing edge front. But that's watching them against East Kentwood. So I would have to go back to last year's footage, and whatever they did then, I assume they'll run now. So watch that. That's all we really know.
Okay.
But we don't know what it looks like, because they've got all new guys. So it really is an X factor. We know that they stopped the run well, but okay, they've stopped the run well against teams that are okay if they don't run the ball. I mean, what was Byron Center this year? They gave up 21 to Byron Center. So what I'm saying, and maybe a possibility to score a couple touchdowns against a run-heavy team, I don't know. That's just kind of where it is. That's what we're looking for. And at the end of the day, the question is, we saw some of the tackle over and some just very slight variations. Does Grandville get really schemy? I don't know if they do yet. I think maybe if there are things in there that Coach Stiegel, who's been a coach very willing to do some different things out of the T or even break the T, maybe you just save that for Rockford. Maybe you just don't put that on film yet. Make sure we aren't out here talking about it early. That sort of thing. Yeah,
that's kind of the debate I'm sure going on, or maybe it's not a debate. Maybe they know what they're going to do, but it's of course a game against a rival in Hudsonville, and you want to prove that it's a statement for the Bulldogs if they would win. Of course, to beat an undefeated Hudsonville team that everybody expects them to win, that's huge. But also at the same time, we already kind of talked about the playoffs as far as a win doesn't likely change the matchup a ton. You're still going to be playing those same teams. So if you have these wholesale changes, which, who knows exactly what that is, but you don't maybe want to break it out this week because you want to win, you want to play a good game, but also you're not going to win the conference. The playoff matchup likely going to stay the same, and so if you've got those things that you think are going to be effective, maybe you're saving those for the first round of the playoffs, and you can break them out then. But that's kind of the thing. You want to put a good game out there. You want to win, but you also don't want to give up too much if you do have some things that you're kind of keeping up your sleeve.
All right, let's do the top 10 and get out of here. Live coverage 6:30 on Friday night. We'll have video coverage, of course, from Grandville for our definitely final game at Bulldog Stadium this year, and possibly our final Grandville game, unless the boys can rally to win a couple playoff games here in the districts and really shut some people up. So we're rooting for that, of course, to happen. I'll go first. What already has been a very serious show compared to normal is just going to stay serious because I've run out of stick here. I'll go. You always go 10 to 1. I'll do it that way. So I'm leaving Grandville 10. Again, I'm not going to nick them for an East Kentwood loss too much, and I'm just going to leave them in there just because, again, the season ended in week 4 in terms of my rankings, so they should still be 1, but whatever. I'm leaving them in. My name's on the LLC.
Okay.
So I can
power.
put Grandville at 10 if I want. That's how it works, right?
Paperwork.
Right. I have to sign off on this whole operation going. I can put Grandville at 10 in my rankings. 9 East Grand Rapids. Still like them. again, this is nothing really, not much changed this past week at all.
Okay.
You looking up East Grand Rapids right now?
Yeah, I'm just.
They did
keep
win.
going.
They did win. Zeeland West Catholic. Again, all teams are like a little bit just like they just kind of won again. So I'm just going to leave them where they are. East Kentwood 6. Going to move them up. They won again. So leave them there. We've now gotten to see what they are. My only real changes then come with a couple of swaps in the top 5. So that's where we'll talk about some things here. Remember how last week live on the air, I was sat here and had a crisis that Rockford beat Muskegon? Mm-hmm. I swapped them. So that's it. Now again, Muskegon, like, are they about to do the 2023 thing?
They might.
They might. Now they have to play Cincinnati Moeller this week in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
That's less fun. That'll be tough for them.
Uh-huh.
But again, Lamar Brett, what I like about them is I kind of like how the coaching staff, and this might be apropos to Grandville, the whole community they won a state championship, and the whole community had pitchforks out saying, we need to throw the football because throwing the football is what people call modern offense. And if you don't throw the football, even with a high school team, you don't know what you're doing. So they just won the state championship, and Coach Fairfield said, fine, I'll get a transfer quarterback that just wants to throw the ball. And we'll throw the ball. Guess what happened when they decided to stop running the ball, Chandler? They missed the playoffs for the first time in 25 years. So then guess what they did this year? They got a sophomore quarterback, and he's been in some. But for the most part, they got Lamar Bradford, who's a classic Muskegon quarterback. And so let's go back. Let's run the triple option. Let's run Muskegon football. And guess what? They are about to win the state championship again. So just a lesson out there to the parents, same parents that ran Ralph Munger out of town in Rockford, because he wasn't throwing the ball enough. Mm-hmm. Guess how many championships they've won at Rockford since he left? Less than when he was there. So, just a lesson to parents out there about sometimes the idea of modernizing an offense at a certain school may not always work.
I knew there'd be a rant hidden in the top 10 somewhere.
Yep, there's the rant. Just a thought. Unity Christian, Grand Rapids Catholic Central. I flipped them because Catholic Central had D2 Northview. So Catholic Central, I got to pull up my my column from today. So they're number 1. West Catholic is number 2 in playoff points right now in Division 5. West Catholic has like 58. They're second. Catholic Central has like 73. It's like they're like would be like the top team in like a division or 2 divisions above them, and then Hudsonville won. So that's my top 10.
Okay.
I can't remember really what I said outside my rant.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, that's pretty much the same.
Pretty much the same thing. And I haven't had much movement the last couple weeks.
This was easy, actually, to make this graphic today for you. It was
I had one swap. The teams flip-flop places. There was no drops. There was no teams added in. So I'll just read them 10 to 1. I've got Cedar Springs remaining at 10. They had a big win over Coopersville. Offense now scored back-to-back weeks at over 50 points. Their only loss still remains to Kennewood Hills, who I've got.
What kind of offense did they run? Probably some crazy spread, right?
Yeah, it has to be, right? At 9, Zeeland West.
What kind of offense do they run? Probably some sort of crazy spread, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing a theme here. Yeah, this is interesting.
I'm about to shut up for 2 teams.
Yeah, right. They had a big win over Wyoming, which was expected, but then the team right above them, West Catholic, they play each other head-to-head 8-9 this week for me. That'll be a good game, so that'll be decided in a little bit. I can't imagine either team's going to move a ton based off that because it could go either way. But I've got Kennewood Hills at 7. They had a shutout over Greenville. They've got a winnable game against Sparta in week 9. The flip-flop that I made was Muskegon went from 7 to 6 ahead of Kennewood Hills for the reasons that you mentioned. But yeah, it looks like they've completely turned around. 6 wins in a row after losing to Grandville and Rockford. And looking like they could be on a serious run once again. East Kentwood, got to see them in person last week. Got them at 5. If I were any team in the year, I'd be scared to play them in the playoffs.
For sure.
It was kind of one of those things that you've heard a lot of the hype and you don't really know. And that was my first time seeing them in person, and it was like, yeah, I see what the teams are or what people are saying. So.
Their ceiling, I think, is still the highest. Like I think Hudsonville has pretty much been playing at their ceiling for 2 straight years now. I think Rockford has something that's unlockable based on their health and how they play. I feel like East Kentwood has only been playing to like 80% of what they can be, and I feel like they're the team that have the most to like really crazy on lock once you get in a playoff run. Like
Yeah.
they have this ceiling where like they might be the D1 team that could be the biggest state championship threat, just because I feel like they are the closest thing to like Catholic Central and Cass Tech that this side of the state has to offer. Closest game of the year, still against Cass Tech, by the way. The overtime game that Grandville
Coulda, shoulda,
won.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. I think you're exactly right. For East Kentwood, it's they're probably the most likely team to maybe not play up to the potential, as far as we've seen that at times.
That's the other side.
That's the other side of it, but they're also the team that they put it together. They're probably the best team in the area, and they could go on a run. And it's just kind of that unpredictability and what exactly you're going to get out of them. But they looked apart, so I've got them at 5. Rockford, of course, has the head win over East Kentwood, so they're going to remain at 4. Big win over Caledonia, and then the top 3 exact same as you had. Unity.
What kind of offense do they run?
Yep. Catholic Central 2, Hudsonville 1, and not a lot to add there. So, I think
I would ask what kind of offense Catholic Central runs, but it literally doesn't matter as long as they score 3 points. It's pretty much just where it's been lately.
Defense.
Yeah, they run defense is what they're. Their game against West Catholic is going to be so interesting, because we're going to see, like, I feel like West Catholic has kind of just been like, they've been not quite performing to that same high level, but like they're putting it together, and that's just going to that's the state championship game.
West Catholic's the one team that I'm holding back, bumping them up, because, as I said, they're playing Zeeland West this week and they lose, and then I look bad. But they're the one team that I've kind of been bullied into keeping down, that I had higher on the list earlier. Kind of wishing I'd maybe just taken a shot at it and left them, but we'll see how it plays out.
I guess my thing too is kind of, just before we get out of here, like looking at those teams and now like thinking of our own playoff run, like, okay, we've gotten to the end, and there was a point where I'm like, I don't think a single team from West Michigan is going to be championship worthy except maybe Catholic Central. And now, like, the way it's kind of sitting, like, you got a trio of teams in D1 that are playing really good football that could be in it. You've got, I do think Muskegon is like in the run for them is pretty fortuitous based on, again, you got Portage Central, the point, 1 point, whatever, points per game that they're allowing. But like, they haven't played anyone to some extent. I mean, especially compared to Muskegon's schedule. It's like Muskegon could go D3. Maybe that's the one division there's not as much of a threat from, just being, just because like Zeeland West isn't quite on that same level they were. But you never know. D4, Unity, certainly the issue with D4 is winning the championship, because Harper Woods might be the second best team in the entire state, regardless of division in D4. And then D5 is definitely winning it. So like, definitely the last couple of weeks here, it's gone from like, I don't think anyone from West Michigan is winning it, to like, there could be 4 teams at Ford Field from the Grand Rapids area, which is neat. So yeah, that's what's coming up. So again, stay tuned at MI Game Night and social media to find out where exactly we're going to be, what the plan is. He's Chandler Timmer. I'm Nate Dreyer. 6:30 on Friday night. MichiganSportsRadio.com and the Michigan Sports Radio app. We'll have Grandville versus Hudsonville. Senior night. It's the Veterans Appreciation Night as well at Grandville. I don't know if we're doing a flyover or not, like we did last year.
Yeah,
who knows?
Cool.
Hopefully, I'll catch it on camera this year if it does happen. But that's what's going on. We'll see y'all. Thanks for tuning in to Dawgs Plus all year long. Last episode, I think, of the year. So we'll see y'all on Friday night.